You said you needed space. I gave it to you. So why are you still suffocating? That line? It's not a threat. It's not even an insult. It's the truth, the kind of truth that makes someone drop their phone, freeze in their seat, and feel that twist in their chest. You asked for space. You demanded distance. You wanted silence. And now you got it. But it turns out you didn't want freedom. You wanted control. And without someone to chase you, mirror you, or feed your ego, that so-called space became a prison. My friends, sometimes the most haunting thing in the world isn't a scream, it's silence. Because silence doesn't argue, silence doesn't chase, silence forces people to face the emptiness they created. If you've ever been rejected, discarded, ghosted, cheated on, or just plain ignored by someone who claimed to care, you need to stay right here. Because what we're about to unpack is the shift that turns your heartbreak into their haunting. This video isn't about revenge, it's about recovery. It's about rising so far above the garbage they left you in that they can't even recognize your glow. So go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and get ready to step into a level of silence that doesn't hurt you. It heals you while it destroys them. Hey folks, imagine this. You were loyal to someone who kept pushing you away like you were some annoying ad on their screen. You showed up, texted back, forgave things that should have been unforgivable, and they looked at you like you were a doormat, not a gift, like you were disposable, like your soul, your care, your consistency were trash. And what did they say when they couldn't handle the love you gave? I need space. But what they really meant was, I want to see if I can find better while keeping you on standby. And now that you've respected that space, now that you've stopped chasing, stopped checking, stopped explaining, they're haunted. Haunted by the very silence they begged for. This isn't a movie, this is real life. And in real life, karma doesn't always show up in thunder. Sometimes it shows up when they check their phone at 2 a.m. and realize there's no message from you, no apology, no attention, just nothing. That nothing is louder than anything you've ever said. And it's choking them. Because space? It was never supposed to be empty. They thought you'd orbit them forever, like a loyal dog waiting at the door. But my friends, you're not a dog. You're not an emotional dumpster. You're not here to beg for the crumbs they toss when they're bored. You were the meal. And now they're starving. You need to hear this. They didn't walk away because you weren't enough. They walked away because they were too blind, too immature, too selfish to recognize your worth. And now that space they created is a haunted house. Every corner echoes with the sound of what they lost. Every empty bed, every silent notification, every fake smile on their feed. It's all hiding the same thing: regret. Deep, bitter regret. But don't let that pull you back. Don't let their games rewrite your truth. Because you are not a backup plan. You're not someone they get to come back to after the damage is done. You're the one they'll never get access to again. So let this hit you where it needs to. This isn't the part where you beg. This is the part where you become. You become someone who doesn't flinch when left alone. You become someone who doesn't chase confusion. You become someone who says, if you needed space, enjoy it. Forever. Comment this below to lock it into your identity right now. I gave them space. Now I give myself peace. Write it, own it, and let them sit with the silence they created, because this time you're not coming back. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me. Because next, we're diving deep into what really happens when your absence becomes the echo they can't outrun. Number 1. They wanted space until it turned into solitude. You treated me like a doormat, and now you miss the steps that led to me. Let that sink in, deep, because the same people who once wiped their mess on your soul are now wandering in circles, barefoot in their own regret, begging for the path back to the version of you they spit on. My friends, this is what happens when someone mistakes your consistency for desperation, your forgiveness for weakness, your presence for permission to play God. They told you they needed space. But now, that space is suffocating them. And the worst part, you didn't slam the door, you didn't scream, you didn't make a scene, you just disappeared, quietly, like smoke through the cracks. And now they're choking on what they thought they wanted. Hey folks, picture this. Imagine someone begging to be alone in a house they once begged you to build with them. They stand in the doorway saying they need space, as if love was clutter. So you pack your energy, your attention, your warmth, and you leave. No noise, no guilt, no performance, just silence. At first, they feel proud, relieved, free, but days pass, then weeks. And that space, it gets bigger, colder, quieter, and suddenly the walls start whispering things they can't unhear. Why did they leave so calmly? Why aren't they reaching out? Did they really stop caring? That, my friends, is not freedom they're feeling. That's the cold hand of solitude, grabbing their ego by the throat. They thought you'd orbit them forever, that you were just one sad emoji away from crawling back, that your silence was temporary, like a stubborn mood swing. But no, this time it was real. This time your absence wasn't a trick, it was a truth. And now they're haunted, not by your anger, not by your words, but by your lack of need. Because you didn't just stop texting, you stopped hoping. You didn't just give them space, you gave them exactly what they asked for. And they had no idea how terrifying it would be to finally be left with nothing but their own reflection. You need to hear this. Some of you gave everything to someone who treated you like background noise. You texted, you checked in, you gave more chances than they deserved. You forgave things you never should have tolerated. You tried to talk it out, make it work, fix what they kept breaking, and still they tossed you out like trash, said they needed time, space, room to think. But here's what they never told you. They weren't looking for peace. They were looking for options. They wanted to explore while keeping you in their back pocket. And now that pocket's empty, and it's killing them. And let me call it out real quick. You let them. You let them make you an option. You let them treat your heart like it was recyclable. You forgot your worth and accepted crumbs. You waited. You prayed. You replayed every moment, blaming yourself, wondering what you did wrong, but you didn't do anything wrong. You just forgot you were the prize. You just let someone make you believe that your love was too much, when in reality, it was more than they could handle. And now the tables have turned. Now they're alone in the space they asked for. And you're not waiting anymore. You're evolving, and don't get it twisted. They're watching, silently, checking your stories, stalking your feed, asking mutual friends if you're okay. But they don't care if you're okay. They care if you're over it. And the more you heal in silence, the more they unravel in noise. That's what solitude does to a guilty soul. It turns every quiet second into a courtroom. Every breath becomes a verdict, and every flash of your growth becomes a sentence they can't escape. They miss you now, but not just your presence. They miss your patience, your consistency, your warmth, the way you always cared, even when they didn't deserve it. But here's the truth, my friends. What they're feeling isn't love. It's withdrawal. Emotional addiction, withdrawal. They were high on your attention, drunk on your loyalty, and now they're sober in a room that echoes with their own silence. They wanted space, and now they're lost in it. They said they needed distance, and now they don't know how to close the gap. They played the game thinking you'd always be there, but you didn't pause. You vanished. Not to punish, but to protect. Not to hurt them, but to heal you. And in doing that, you didn't just create space, you created a void. And that void, my friends, is where their ego went to die. So let this be your wake-up call. Stop being the doormat for people who only wipe their feet when their pride gets dirty. Stop begging for love from people who wouldn't give you honesty if it cost them nothing. Stop handing out loyalty like candy to people who only show up when they're hungry for your energy. You're not the one who needs closure. They are. You're not the one who needs space. They asked for it. Let them choke on it. And if you're still wondering, what if they come back? What if they finally realize? Don't. Because what's coming next is not about them. It's about you becoming someone so grounded, so stable, so powerful that even your silence has a legacy. They don't get to walk in and out of your life like it's a revolving door. That door is closed now, locked, sealed with self-worth. And they're on the outside, screaming into a space they thought they wanted, until it turned into a graveyard of their own mistakes. Write this in the comments like it's a vow to your future self. I vanished and they lost their grip. Say it, show it, speak it into your identity, not to prove a point to them, but to prove your power to you. And if this just woke something up in you, if you feel the shift happening deep inside, then hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me. Because the next chapter, that's when they go from haunted to obsessed. Number 2. They're not thriving, they're pretending. They didn't move on, they just moved the performance to a different stage, because nothing thrives in a heart full of guilt. That line, it's not a theory, it's a reality, and deep down, you know it. The same person who pushed you away, told you they needed space, told you they wanted freedom, is now out here posting forced smiles, fake happiness, and empty captions. Living my best life, they say. But look closer. That life, it's a carefully staged illusion. It's not healing, it's hiding. Because people don't heal by replacing you. They just bury their regrets in distraction, hoping no one notices the cracks. But the cracks always show. And the haunting? It never comes loudly. It shows up in the quiet, when no one's looking, when they're alone with the one thing they can't unfollow. The truth. You think they're thriving because they're smiling in pictures, because they posted a quote about peace and growth, because they're laughing with someone new. My friends, that's not peace. That's panic with a filter. That's guilt in disguise. That's them trying to convince themselves that they made the right choice. But if you could hear their thoughts when the lights go out, when the party ends, when the phone battery dies, you'd hear the truth. And it sounds like, what if I messed up the one person who actually cared? Hey folks, imagine this. Someone throws away a diamond because it didn't shine under their dim lighting. They toss it aside like trash, thinking there's a brighter gem out there. But now they're holding knockoffs, plastic, cheap replacements, and none of them feel like you. And the worst part? They can't admit it because their pride's too loud and their guilt's too heavy. So what do? They post, they pretend, they pose, they smile with people who don't know their mess, people who weren't there for their damage. They create a highlight reel, hoping you'll see it and question your own healing. But let me tell you something powerful. They are the ones questioning themselves. Every picture they post is a scream for validation. Every new connection is a bandage on a wound that's still bleeding beneath the surface. Because here's the lie they tell the world. I'm doing fine. But here's the truth. They're haunted. Haunted by how calm you went. Haunted by how silent you've been. Haunted by the fact that the one they expected to chase didn't. The one they called too emotional, too available, too much is now completely unavailable. And the haunting doesn't come like thunder. It creeps in through the little things. An old message they forgot to delete. A memory triggered by a song. A photo they didn't have the heart to remove. And suddenly, that space they begged for. It's not freedom anymore. It's a stage they can't exit. A role they're tired of playing, because nothing is heavier than pretending to be okay when you know deep down you fumbled someone real. Let me ask you something. Why are you still romanticizing the version of them that smiled the loudest after hurting you the deepest? Why are you still giving mental real estate to someone who treated your heart like it was an emotional trash bin? Wake up. That was not love. That was control. That was manipulation dressed up in half-effort compliments and disappearing acts. And some of you, you've been sitting in silence, scrolling through their profiles, analyzing their smiles, wondering, are they happier without me? No, they're just louder in their pretending. You're mistaking noise for peace. And I get it. It's hard. It's hard to believe they're not okay when they look so fine. But understand this. People can dress their pain in designer clothes. They can laugh with people they'd trade in a second if it meant getting back the peace they had with you. They can travel, party, and distract. But they can't delete the memory of the one who showed them real loyalty. And you were that. You were the constant, the one who forgave too much, who stayed too long, who gave them space not because you were weak, but because you were strong enough to respect their words, even when they didn't understand what they were asking for. And here's the dagger to their ego. They can't replace your energy, not with a rebound, not with attention, not with shallow validation, because your energy was pure. It wasn't performative. It wasn't transactional. It was rooted in love, in effort, in real connection. And now that you're gone, now that you're healing without the need to prove it, they're spiraling in private. And that spiral, it doesn't show up on social media. It shows up in insomnia, in overthinking, in guilt that grows louder every time they see you unbothered, unreadable, and out of reach. And let me scold you for a second. How dare you forget your worth? How dare you let a broken person convince you that you were too much, when in fact you were just too real for someone that fake? How dare you look at their timeline and question your glow? You were never the problem, you were the light. And when they couldn't handle the brightness, they tried to dim you. But guess what? They're the ones lost in the dark now. And you're just getting started. This is your season to rise, silently and steadily. Don't stalk their life, build yours. Don't wonder if they care for yourself. Don't try to be louder, be stronger, because your silence is doing what your words never could. It's reminding them that you were never the option, they were the mistake. So write this in the comments right now and let it burn into your identity. They're pretending. I'm progressing. Say it loud. Say it with fire. Say it so that even the algorithm hears your healing. Show yourself. Show them. Show the world around you that you don't need to prove your power. You are the proof. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going even deeper into the moment their ego starts to collapse under the weight of your absence. This performance, it's about to end. Number 3. You respected their words. Now they're crushed by your silence. They told you to leave them alone, and now they can't believe you actually listened. That's the brutal irony, my friends. They pushed you away thinking you'd fight harder. They told you they needed time, needed space, or just wanted to be alone, but they expected you to stay on the hook. Like a loyal dog at the door, waiting for scraps. Like a doormat with no memory, they thought you'd keep knocking, keep checking, keep asking, "Are you okay?" And you did. For a while, until something inside you finally snapped. And that snap wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was silent. It was surgical. You didn't shout. You didn't beg. You just backed away and never came back. That's when the haunting began. They expected your silence to be temporary, a tantrum, a guilt trip, a test. But this time, it wasn't any of that. This time, it was real. This time, you were gone, not ghosted, not playing a game, just done. Not because you hate them, not because you want revenge, but because you respected their words. And that's what makes it sting the most. You didn't leave with bitterness. You left with honor, with dignity, with your head up and your voice tucked neatly into the silence. And now, every day they sit in the space they created, they realize something painful. You were the only one who ever listened to them fully, and that's why they lost you. Imagine that. They asked you for space, and now that they've got it, they're choking in it, drowning in their own words, because what they thought would bring them peace has become a vacuum of regret. And you? You didn't punish them, you didn't clap back, you didn't make them a villain, you did something far more powerful. You became invisible. And that's the one thing their ego was never prepared for. Now they're scrolling through their messages, looking for you, watching your stories, hoping you post something emotional, checking your profile, hoping for a quote they can twist into a sign. But there's nothing, no drama, no signal, no breakdown, just calm. And that calm, that's what's breaking them. Because silence, real silence, is not emptiness. It's judgment. It's clarity. It's the sound of someone who doesn't need to be heard anymore to feel at peace. And let's be clear, your silence isn't petty. It's sacred. It's earned. You tried. You gave explanations. You had the hard talks. You fought for them. And still, they chose distance. So now, you're giving them what they asked for. Just not the way they expected. They wanted you quiet. But now, you're gone. And that difference, that's what crushes their pride. Because deep down, they never thought you'd really stop. They thought your heart was a vending machine. Infinite chances, infinite forgiveness, infinite softness. They thought you were trash they could recycle whenever they missed comfort. But you were not trash. You were the treasure they buried, thinking no one else would ever find it. And now, here's the lie they're choking on. They'll be back. That lie kept them warm at night. That lie made them ignore your worth. That lie allowed them to treat your presence like background noise. But now they're waking up to the truth. You're not coming back, and the silence is deafening. Let me scold you for one thing, though. Some of you waited too long to respect yourself. You kept sending those just checking in texts. You kept apologizing for being hurt. You kept thinking that if you just loved them a little harder, they'd see you. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. And I'm telling you right now, it's done. No more begging people to appreciate what they never earned. No more shrinking yourself to fit in the silence someone else created. If they wanted space, give it to them. Forever. You owe no explanations. You owe no reactions. You owe no more of your soul to someone who couldn't even handle your presence, let alone your love. They're not confused. They're crushed. Crushed under the weight of their own decisions. Crushed by the consequences of their own mouth. Crushed by the realization that you were the one, and they asked you to leave. So write this in the comments if you feel this fire building inside. I respected their words. Now they respect my silence. Type it, lock it in, show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you're not a game to be played. You're a piece they'll never know again. And stay with me, because in the next shift we go deeper into what happens when you stop waiting and start living. That's when silence turns into transformation. Number 4. They thought you'd wait, but you started living. They thought you'd be waiting in the ashes, but you were building an empire with the very fire they left you to burn in. Let that hit deep. Because for the longest time, they believed their absence was a weapon. that pulling back would make you spiral, that withholding love, attention, respect, whatever little scraps they gave, would make you desperate, that you'd sit in your room refreshing your messages, watching their stories, waiting for some sign, some text, some breadcrumb, that you'd fall apart without their validation. But here's what they never expected. You didn't wait. You woke up. You didn't spiral. You started stacking. You didn't beg. You built. You took every unanswered text, every cold shoulder, every fake smile, every ignored call, and you turned it into fuel. They thought you'd fall to pieces, but you became the one thing they can't touch anymore, whole. Hey folks, imagine this. They're sitting on their phone, confident, cocky, maybe even laughing. They'll be back, they tell themselves. They always come back. Meanwhile, you're in the gym turning pain into strength. You're in books turning confusion into clarity. You're in silence turning heartbreak into healing. And while they're waiting for the old version of you to reappear, the overthinker, the overgiver, the one who forgave too easily, you're nowhere to be found. Because the old you doesn't live here anymore. The person who begged for closure, cried for attention, and broke themselves to be enough for someone blind. That person is gone. You see, they didn't leave you in peace. They left you in pieces. But instead of waiting for them to come back and pick them up, you built something out of those fragments that terrifies them now. You rebuilt yourself in silence. You evolved in private. And now you glow so loudly that even their fake happiness can't drown it out. That's the part that destroys them. It's not your silence alone. It's the fact that your silence is backed by progress. You're not just gone, you're growing. You're not just quiet, you're winning. And they're still on the same emotional treadmill, running, flexing, faking, but getting nowhere. They thought you'd wait, but they forgot. You're not a background character in their life. You're the main character in yours, and you've been busy rewriting the entire script. But let's be honest, in the beginning, it was hard. You almost did wait. You almost texted back. You almost chased, because you were conditioned to believe that silence meant hope, that distance meant testing, that being ignored meant try harder. But my friend, that was never love. That was emotional manipulation. That was power play. That was them trying to see how long you'd keep watering a dead garden. And I'm proud of you, because you stopped. You stopped showing up to a house where the door was never really open. You stopped performing in someone else's story just to be cast as the afterthought. You stopped waiting, and you started living. And now they're watching. Don't be fooled. They see everything, every quiet flex, every small win, every smile that isn't about them, and it haunts them, because you're not just doing better, you're doing better without them. They wanted to be the reason you rose, but instead their absence became the reason you no longer fall. Let me say it straight. They thought you'd stay weak. You got stronger. They thought you'd stay stuck. You leveled up. They thought you'd be sobbing, stuck, or broken. You're silent, solid, and so far ahead they can't even fake catching up anymore. So here's your wake-up call, if you still needed one. Stop checking for people who left you behind. Stop slowing down your healing just to see if they noticed your glow. They see it. They just can't say a damn thing about it. Because the second they open their mouth, they'll have to admit what they lost. And pride, it won't let them do that. So let them sit in silence while you rise in purpose. Comment this below and let the world feel your evolution. I didn't wait, I evolved. Type it with power. Speak it for every time you nearly broke. Post it for every night you cried alone. Say it for the version of you who once thought love meant suffering. You didn't just survive their absence. You turned it into your blueprint. And stay with me, because in the next chapter, we reveal what happens when your peace becomes their punishment. That's when regret turns into obsession. Number 5, they claimed space, but they missed your energy. They didn't need space, they needed your energy without the responsibility of keeping it. That's the truth they'll never admit, but it's the one that cuts the deepest. They weren't overwhelmed by your love, they were addicted to it. Addicted to the way you made them feel without ever asking them to match it. Addicted to your patience, your kindness, your softness. You were their emotional supply, their safety net, their comfort zone. But when things got too real, too vulnerable, too exposed, they panicked, and they called it needing space. But what they really meant was this: let me have your energy on standby while I explore people who don't love me as deeply. My friends, that wasn't space. That was selfishness wrapped in a lie. And you gave it to them, not because you were weak, but because you respected their request. You thought, maybe they're overwhelmed, maybe they're confused, maybe I'm too much. But let me wake you up. You were never too much. You were consistent in a world full of flakiness. You were present in a culture that runs. You were powerful in your loyalty. And the truth is, they knew exactly what they had. They just never thought they'd lose it. They didn't want to be with you fully, but they couldn't stand the thought of you being with someone else. They didn't want to give you clarity, but they also didn't want to give you closure. Because once you had clarity, once you had closure, you would pull your energy back. And that's what they feared most. Not your distance, but your disconnection. Because once your energy goes, once your light dims for them, once your warmth is no longer on tap, they feel the cold. And here's what you need to hear. They didn't miss you. They missed your energy. They missed what you brought into their life. The peace, the laughter, the grounding, the emotional safety net. But they didn't want to be that for you. They just wanted to receive it. And now they're left with exactly what they asked for, space. But not the kind that heals, the kind that echoes, the kind that whispers your name in places you once stood. The kind that makes their chest tighten every time they remember how safe it used to feel to be loved by you. So stop romanticizing their absence. Stop thinking they were confused. They weren't confused. They were consuming your energy like thieves and leaving you with doubt. You're not a battery for broken people. You're a whole damn power source. Comment this right now if you feel it in your soul. They didn't need space. They needed my energy. Say it. Own it. Show the world and yourself that your love is not a free ride. And stay with me, because in the next chapter we'll uncover how they became trapped in the very maze they built to avoid you. The space turned into solitude, the solitude into torment. Now, it's too late to recharge from the light they threw away. Number 6. The space they created became a labyrinth they can't escape. They built the distance. Now they're lost in it. They thought space would set them free, that walking away would mean wiping the slate clean. But instead of clarity, they created a labyrinth, one that loops back to you at every turn. Your absence isn't a closed door, it's a haunted maze. And the deeper they wander, the more trapped they become in the guilt they never addressed, in the emotions they never processed, in the love they thought they could walk away from and replace. At first it felt good. They felt light. They posted their highlights, entertained distractions, flirted with replacements. But it all started to blur. Because nothing fits, nothing compares. No matter how far they scroll, how many people they line up, how loud the noise gets, you're still there, in the background, in the silence, in the moments no one else can fill. They didn't just lose you, they lost the version of themselves that felt seen, grounded, safe. And now, everything they touch feels artificial. Every smile is forced. Every laugh is hollow. Because love without accountability is a loop. And they're stuck running circles around the same mistake, letting you go. They walk the halls of your memory, trying to find an exit, but every corner echoes the same regret, and that's what they never prepared for. Not the silence, the mirror inside it. They thought you'd chase them through the maze, but you didn't. You burned the map and walked away. And now they're left in the same confusion they once used to trap you. So let them run, let them search, let them scroll through endless profiles and empty connections. None of it will save them from the truth. They built this labyrinth, and you were the only way out. If this hit your chest, type this below. They lost me in the maze they built. Show yourself, show them, show the world around you, and stay with me, because next we dive into what happens when you stop reacting. And they start obsessing. The silence is no longer empty, it's their torment. Number 7. Now, they're the one obsessing in silence. They wanted you to chase, now they're chasing your silence. That's the shift they never saw coming. The same person who left you on read is now rereading every old message you ever sent. The one who ignored your calls now stares at their phone, hoping yours lights it up. The one who told you to move on is now trapped in the silence they created, obsessing over the fact that you're not obsessed anymore. You used to watch their every post, their stories, their likes, just to feel a connection. You used to overanalyze every response, question every delay, break yourself down into pieces just to understand what you did wrong. But not anymore. You're not watching. You're not waiting. You're not even wondering, because your energy is no longer theirs to toy with. And that's what flips the power dynamic. Your disinterest became their addiction. Now they check your profile in the middle of the night. They zoom in on your photos. They stalk the likes. They scan for clues, for cracks, for signs that you're still hurting, still hanging on, still stuck, like they secretly are. But all they find is stillness, confidence, distance. And that absence, that's louder than any goodbye could ever be. Every blank message is a scream they can't send. Every old memory is a mirror they can't break. Every silent moment is haunted by a truth they don't want to face. You're gone, and you're not coming back. My friends, you became the ghost, but not the weak, sad ghost they thought you'd be. No, you became the kind of ghost that haunts their ego. You didn't fade. You vanished with meaning. You didn't disappear to punish. You disappeared because you evolved. And now, every second they don't hear from you is proof that they lost someone they never deserved. So type this in the comments right now. If you feel it deep, they're watching. I'm winning. Say it like it's a declaration, like a vow to the version of you who used to cry, beg, wait, and break. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's when your growth turns into their full-blown obsession. They tried to forget you. Now you live in their silence, rent-free. Number 8. You're not coming back, and that's what destroys them. They didn't believe you'd really leave, until the silence never ended. That's what destroys them now. Not the absence of your messages, not the fact that you're not calling or checking up on them. What really wrecks them, piece by piece, is the realization that the door is never opening again. Not a crack, not a creak, not even a whisper. For the longest time, they convinced themselves it was just a matter of time, that eventually you'd fold, that eventually you'd miss them more than they ignored you, that eventually you'd come crawling back to the place where you were discarded like trash, but treated it like a temple. But you didn't. You walked, and you kept walking. And now, that's what kills them. Not your anger, your indifference, not your loud exit, your quiet evolution. They still replay it all in their head. Don't be fooled. The last conversation, the last text, the last look you gave them when you still had hope in your eyes. They remember the moment they asked for space, thinking it was power, thinking they could always come back to a you that would still be waiting. But now they scroll through your life like an outsider. They see you glowing, laughing, focused, healed, and that's the pain. That's the punch they never saw coming. You healed without them. You rebuilt without their apology. You closed your own wounds and locked the chapter they thought they'd always have access to. Because you don't hate them, you simply outgrew the version of yourself who needed them, and when you outgrow someone, you don't go back. Not because you're bitter, but because there's nothing left to return to. The space they created, you turned it into your freedom. The silence they caused, you turned it into your strength. And now they can't follow, because the version of you that loved them is no longer available. That version has been buried in growth, in self-respect, in peace. So let it be known, you're not the one who left the door open. You're the one who built a new house with no address. They can't find you anymore, and even if they could, they wouldn't recognize who you've become. That's the final devastation. That's what breaks their illusion into pieces. Not that you're gone, but that you're never coming back. Type this in the comments and make it your final vow. The door is closed. I've moved on. Say it for yourself. Say it for your future. Say it for the person you've become. And stay with me, because what's coming next is not their return. It's your rebirth. And now you know. The silence they asked for became their torment, and the space they demanded turned into your power. You didn't just walk away, you outgrew everything that kept you small, and now they're left chasing a ghost while you rise in peace. If this spoke to your soul, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop your final affirmation in the comments. I moved on. For real. Own it, live it, and never look back. Because the best revenge is no revenge, just never needing them again.